Morning, Patreon. Today we're going to talk about MILSIM, aka Airsoft, as a training tool. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is myself and several of my brothers have been doing some MILSIM about every 2 weeks and having a blast doing it. So I want to talk about some pros and cons of MILSIM. So I'll do pros first, then I'll do cons, and then afterward, if you have questions or comments, if you do airsoft or MILSIM as it's known, I guess in some circles, let me know what did I miss, what did I, which nails did I hit on the head, etc., etc. Because I'll be the first one to tell you I haven't done this a whole lot, just a handful of times, but I see the value in it, which is why I wanted to make this video. Okay? Okay, Bear. All right, cool. So pro number one, team movement. This has been a lot of fun for us, and we have a lot of people, and so what we do is we rent out the entire field for a day, typically on Sundays, first days, which works for the field that we rent out because they do the vast majority of their business on Saturday, which is when we observe the Sabbath. So win-win for everybody. We have a lot of people. It's a blast. We get some big teams. How big, Bear? OPSEC, bro. OPSEC. But some big teams. And so breaking those teams out into fire teams and then doing team movements, cover and move, it's awesome. Getting people to break the bad habit of crouching behind cover, right? When you need to move, move. If I'm covering you, you can move. If you're covering me, I can move. That kind of thing. It's a blast. Which delves into pro number two. You don't die when you're doing this. If you get shot with a little BB, 4.5 millimeter BB, I think is what they are, you don't die. It might sting a little bit. Yes, you should wear ear pro, eye pro. Ear pro, they're not that loud, Bear. Nope, we had a brother who got shot in the ear canal. The BB went all the way down his ear canal. There was a stomp bag involved, lots of irrigation and tweezers and suction in order to get the BB out of his ear canal. So I would keep those covered, even though the guns are very quiet, with foamies or your Peltors or whatever. And eye protection as well, because you don't want to get shot in the eye. But you don't actually die. And so that's a good thing when it comes to training, because the consequences of the inappropriate action aren't death. Number three pro is commo. And I don't mean radios, although that could certainly play a role. But talking as a team, there's two at 10 o'clock, 40 yards out. Okay, cool. 10 o'clock relative to who? Did you guys figure that out yet? And we were big on teams, right? Because two or three can cover and move. An individual is going to have a much harder time covering and moving, right? So commo, putting together a battle plan, right? And the types of scenarios that we're running are like not just capture the flag, but also hostage rescue, which is a blast, right? And we set a time limit. Like you have a half an hour for hostage rescue. The hostage is going to be in one of these two places on the map. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. But we have to commo. The team lead needs to be able to explain what we're about to do, how we're going to do it, where we expect the bad guys are, what we expect their, most likely, most dangerous courses of action are going to be, et cetera, et cetera. And then talk to each other throughout the game, throughout the scenario. Commo with one another. And you might be thinking like, yeah, radios are great for that. If you have earpieces in, yeah, they're great for that, because if you don't have earpieces in, and your radio is turned all the way up, and you're one of the bad guys, and one of the other bad guys gets on the radio, I now know exactly where you are, because I heard your radio. Yeah, it's a blast. Number four pro is SOPs. What are your standard operating procedures for you as a unit, as your mutual assistance group, your Boer Farmer Triangle, your whatever, your SHTF team? again, because of point number 2, you don't die. You can test these SOPs. You can work on these things. How do we cross a linear danger area? How many people need to move when we move? Are you guys doing the slinky thing? I hate the slinky thing, where the person in front runs up, and then everybody else slinkies behind them, and then the next they run up again, and then everybody slinkies behind them. Well, that person in the front is taking all that fire, they're spending all that ammunition, and the people in the back aren't doing anything, versus, cover and move. So what are your team SOPs? Basic things like everybody has an IFAC and it's located here. Part of how we play, part of our rules are, because it's all make-believe, right? MILSIM, simulation, it's all make-believe. If you get shot in the arm or the leg, you can, TCCC rules, homie, you can throw a tourniquet on that. Now you're gonna have a tourniquet on that for the remainder of the scenario. And we're suspending some reality here as well, because if you get shot in the leg and it's particularly bad, you're probably not gonna be running around the battlefield. But we're incorporating some of these techniques and procedures into how we do things as part of our SOP. Like, if you get shot in the arm, care under fire, throw a tourniquet on that sucker, right? And so it's a lot of fun. It's a great way to build those SOPs out for your group. Speaking of group, the 5th pro is camaraderie. Did I mention it's a lot of fun? Now, it's summer here in Oklahoma. We're sweating our balls off doing this. My legs are super sore because the field that we play at has a lot of change in elevation, and assaulting uphill sucks. It sucks, especially when you're assaulting uphill against an entrenched enemy. It sucks. A lot of respect for people who warfight professionally, because I think the longest we've ever spent at the field has been about 6 hours. Try and get there and be ready to go by 9 a.m. and by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when the sun's high in the sky, everybody's smoked. Going back to SOPs, how much water do you have? Did you bring food with you? Do you have a tourniquet on your kit? Do you know how to use it? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I burned through a lot of water. I think 7 liters of water. 2 days ago we were there, and I think that day I drank 7 liters of water. 5 of which were while we were on site. 5 of which in 6 hours. And 2 quarts of which had oral rehydration salts in them. So, but the camaraderie is awesome. It's awesome. And there's a lot of individual and team development that happens while we're doing this. It's, you get to coach people in the moment and then afterwards. And so after each scenario, we take a break and we do an AAR where everybody on each team, everybody's there. And then we can talk about, dude, you shot me right between the eyes. That was great job. That was awesome. Or I didn't even see you. Or I couldn't tell you were one of our guys, so you got shot in the back. That's a problem. Because if everybody's wearing multicam and MARPAT, right? We don't have, equipment common to all. Everybody looks the same, right? And there's no differentiators. That was my bad. I didn't know that was you. Also, maybe you should have commoed better so that doesn't happen again next time. So there's lots of opportunities here for learning as individuals and as a group. And just the fist bumping camaraderie is awesome, because your heart rate's going to get up, right? It's simulation, but your heart rate gets up. We'll talk about PT in a minute. So it's great for team building. It's great for your mutual assistance group, your SHTF team, your Boer Farmer Triangle. It's a blast. And our field isn't close to us, but it's not super far away either. An hour in the truck and we're there. So it's worth that little bit of a drive. Which gets to pro number 6, the cost. For us, it's $40 for the day. That includes the rental of the gun and the BBs. $40 for the day. Where else can you get And that covers from like 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We've never made it to 5 p.m. because, again, it's summer, right? Where else are you going to get training for $5 an hour? It's a blast, man. And again, SOPs and team movements and all that, like, and equipment common to all. Run your plate carriers. We do. Run your IFACs. We do. And your hydration bladders. Whatever it is you think that you're going to go to war in SHTF with, throw that shit on and go run it, because you're going to find, as you're moving, you're going to find all the issues with this setup. But the cost is very attainable. $40 per person for the day. Pack lunch, bring some water in the truck, you're good. Like $40 per person for the day. Very attainable. Now, I don't know what prices are around the country because I haven't done this around the country, but let's say even if it's double that, we'll call it $100 for the day. All in for your time on property, as well as for the air gun or whatever, the MILSIM gun and the BBs. Dude, for $100 for the day, well worth it. We only pay $40. Even if it was $100 for the day, I'd still be all over it. And it's very attainable. Even if you have people in your group that just don't have that much money, it's $40. 40, not 400, not 200, not 100. It's $40. Very attainable. And then pro number 7 is PT, physical training. We treat this as training. We treat it as, we put our own scenarios together and we run our own scenarios on the field. And one of the guys who works at this field made the comment the last time we were out there. He's like, you guys die a lot less than like the people who are usually on our field. Awesome. That's great news. But it's because we're treating it as training. We're not just running into the maw of machine gun fire, right? Like we're patrolling, we're moving tactically, we're utilizing cover, we're doing all that. Support by fire. We have a mission planning phase before each scenario. Each team leader gives a brief to their teams as to what they're going to do before they insert. We allow the team that's defending in these scenarios to insert before the team that's attacking, to get out of line of sight, to set up, and then radio in, hey, we're up. Okay, cool. And then we start the clock, and then we go in, right? And there's that pressure of working against the clock as well, that, if we have 30 minutes to get this done, that's not an hour. We can't take an hour, right? And so let's say it's the hostage rescue scenario, and we've got 30 minutes to do this, and it's a good size field. It's not a 2-acre field. It's multiple dozens of acres. This field. We got 30 minutes. Okay, well that's 10 for the infill, 10 to gunfight and secure the hostage, and then 10 for the exfil. Right, and so that reverse planning process, excellent. But in there is PT. You got to be able to move, man. I said again, assaulting uphill sucks. My legs are shot today. But my legs are shot because I wasn't just holding a plastic battery-operated rifle. I had my full kit on. All the things that when I go to war in SHTF, all that shit, I had all that shit on. And 5 quarts of water consumed in 6 hours, dripping sweat, heart rate is up. It's awesome. It's awesome, man. It's really good physical training if you use it as physical training. If you just are walking around holding your gun, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. But if you treat it like MILSIM, like an actual simulation of war fighting, which some of us in our group were war fighters at some time, some of us weren't. That's fine. There's a lot of cross-pollination there, and it's an opportunity for everybody to get better. So it's very good physical training as well if you use it as physical training. And add that pressure and accountability. Have an objective and have a timeline in which you have to accomplish the objective. It's phenomenal. Now, some cons of MILSIM. This is maybe the biggest con I have with MILSIM. is the difference between cover and concealment. In real life, concealment means you can't see me, and cover means you can't shoot me, in a nutshell. With MILSIM, with airsoft, bushes are cover because the BBs can't go through. They hit a leaf and they bounce off a leaf, and you can see the guy you're shooting at, but you're not actually getting any hits on them because the BBs aren't bullets. Bullets would go right through that bush, and the problem on the other side of the bush would be solved. It's not that way with MILSIM, and so one of the things that we try and encourage people is like use dirt for cover. Right? The bushes are not cover. And there's a lot of that at the field where we play. There's a lot of breakup in the line of sight due to vegetation. Well, and in many cases, I can see the person on the other side of the bush, but I can't sneak a BB through the bush to get them. If this was real life, like that's not cover. It's maybe concealment, but it's not cover. And so you don't want training scars from that. You don't want to think that you're protected on the other side of this bush when 5.56 or 7.62 51 would just zip right through there. So that's the first issue I have with the potential training scars with MILSIM. The next is ammo management. Everybody knows 30-round magazine, on an AR-15 platform, right? Unless you live in some communist state. But 30s, 40s, 60s, all pretty common for the AR-15. Well, we're holding plastic make-believe AR-15s that have plastic make-believe AR-15 magazines in them. And each one of those magazines holds between 200 and 250 BBs. So ammo management is a big deal because these, at least at the field where we're playing, these guns have safe, semi, and full auto on them. Because of the nature of how the BBs fly, full auto tends to be where most people set their rifles. And it can be very obnoxious. At a certain range, you're shooting right at your target and the BBs are just flying all around them. They'll fly right towards it and then turn at the last moment. That's obnoxious. But also, you're squirting 200 BBs through the end of that rifle before you have to change a magazine. That's not how it works in real life. So ammo management is something that I've seen as a downside with MILSIM. Where I'm carrying one in the gun and one spare, and that's 450 rounds, right, between those two. That's not real life. And so there, as I understand it, there are magazines, standard cap magazines, capacity magazines that hold 30 BBs only in them. That would actually be at some point worth investing in, which we'll get to next. One of the cons of MILSIM or airsoft, just like it's a pro that it only costs $40 to go to the field for the day and rent a gun and get the BBs, one of the cons is the cost as well. And by this I mean several of us, I haven't yet, but I'm looking, several of us have invested a fair amount of money into MILSIM now to be able to bring their own guns and their own magazines and their own specialized equipment that better mimics what they're running for in SHTF, man, which is cool. But it's so much fun and it's such good training that after you go to the field a few times and spend $40 for the day, you're probably going to spend at least 10 times that on equipment so you can go to the field with your own gun and your own magazines the next time. Kind of the way I work is if I do something 3 times and I'm still into it, I'm probably going to invest in it. Or if you have to borrow something from somebody 3 times, hey man, can I borrow your hammer? The 4th time you should just go buy a hammer, right? And so, again, I'm looking, and I don't need your recommendations on what to buy. I'm good. I don't need that. Don't put links in the description. Not interested in any of that. But I'm now looking. My son has his own airsoft arsenal. Several of my brothers are in the process of building their own airsoft arsenals. And so a con could be for you the cost, that if you get hooked, Now you're going to spend as much on MILSIM as you would on an actual, firearm system. And the last con is the equipment at the rental field. They're not bad, but they're not great. The guns that we've been renting, the battery is in the buttstock, and the buttstock is just like pressure fitted on, the cap on the buttstock is just pressure fitted on. Well, if you treat this like training, where you're doing an IMT, I'm up, he sees me, I'm down, you're running, you're rolling, you're getting down in the dirt. There's trenches where we play as well, so there's a whole trench warfare section. You're going to be putting some wear and tear on the gun. On several occasions, the butt pad on the buttstock has just fallen off somewhere, and the battery's dangling out of the back of the gun. So I'm now behind cover, shoving the battery up in the back of the gun. Luckily, I keep a roll of electrical tape on my kit, so I'm electrical taping the shit out of this buttstock so the battery will stay in, putting all that back. The rental magazines aren't that great. They lose spring pressure somewhere around halfway full. And so there's a constant winding the spring, shoot, get behind cover, wind your spring up, shoot, get behind cover, wind your spring up, that kind of thing. And then the accuracy of the rental guns is something that we've noticed, both the velocity and the accuracy of the rental guns, not near as much as a decent aftermarket airsoft gun. They're cheap, and they're cheap necessarily because the field is renting out 30 to 50 of them every day, and if they break, they're just going to replace them with another cheap gun. So, and they're all plastic construction rather than aluminum like some of the higher end airsoft guns out there. So the rental equipment can be a con, but it also gets you used to dealing with malfunctions under stress. So pros, team movement, you don't actually die. You get to work on your commo, you get to work on your SOPs while building camaraderie. It's low cost and you get a really good workout out of it. Cons, bad training scars on cover versus concealment and ammo management, and cost because you might end up buying a whole bunch of stuff to go do MILSIM in the future, and sometimes the rental equipment isn't as good as you would want it to be. With that, I wanted to bring this to y'all because we've derived a lot of value out of MILSIM, not just from a training standpoint, although it's been very good from a training standpoint, but really from a brotherhood standpoint. Building unit cohesion and camaraderie, it's been a blast. It's been a blast. And run scenarios with your team and then do an AAR, after action report, after every scenario. What worked, what didn't work, what went terribly bad, right? Who did a really good job, who did a really bad job, what do we need to work on next time? And then next time's 15 minutes away, and then go work on that. And so there's so much immediate feedback with this that it can be a really good training tool if you use it appropriately. If you do a lot of MILSIM, I am interested in your comments down below. I appreciate y'all. Have a blessed day. Shalom.